Welcome to this video about 5 fun ways to practice sight words. I'm so excited that you're here because sight words can be difficult for kids, and unfortunately there are some words that kids just have to memorize. But the process of memorizing sight words can be really boring and frustrating to kids. And so today I want to share 5 fun ways that we practice sight words in our homeschool. I wrote a blog post about this as well over on my blog where I have 60 fun ways to practice sight words. So if you would like more ways to practice sight words than this, I'm going to put a link to that blog post in the comments of this video. Okay. So the first fun way that we like to practice sight words is a game called Sight Word Parking Lot. And what I do is I use masking tape on the floor to create a parking lot with parking spaces. And then inside each parking space, I'll write a sight word that my kids are learning on a piece of masking tape. And so then I'll call out the sight word and my child will have to park a Hot Wheel car on top of the sight word that I just said. Another way that you can do this is a matching game. You can put the sight words on the parking spaces and then put the same sight words on the cars themselves with masking tape and ask your child to find the correct parking spot for each car by matching the word on the spot with the word on the car. And then the last thing that you could do is you could call out a sight word and ask your child to find the car that's parked there. So lots of different ways that you can play this game to practice sight words with your child. The second one that we really like is called light up words. And this is a great one because it allows my kids to use a flashlight, which they always really love. So in this game, I take some index cards or some Post-it notes or small pieces of paper and write my child's sight words that they're practicing, one on each card, and then tape those on the wall. And then when it's time to play the game, we'll turn off the lights so that it's kind of dark in the room, but the child can still see. And then I will call out a sight word and it'll be my child's job to turn on the flashlight and shine the flashlight on that sight word. My kids love this one because they get to use the flashlight and they usually have so much fun that they forget that they're actually practicing the sight words, which is what I'm going for. So that's a good one. The third game that we really like is called Sight Word Tower. And this one is great because it allows my kids to use their Legos or Duplos. It even works really well with Mega Blocks as well. So what you're going to do with this one is you write a sight word on each Duplo or Lego. If you don't want to write directly on your Legos or Duplos, you can also use tape or sticky notes to write the words and then stick it on the Legos or Duplos. That way you're not ruining your blocks. So you're going to write a word on each block, and then you're going to ask your child to build a tower. So you're going to tell them the sight word, and they have to find the correct block and put that on the tower. And then you'll tell them another sight word, and they can add that block to the top. If you have a slightly older child who's working on learning how to spell the sight words, then a variation of this that you can do is to write a letter on each block instead of a whole word. And you would call out a sight word and then they would have to spell that word using the letters on the blocks. The fourth game that we like to play is called Sight Word Frog Pond. And this one is great for my son who is very active. What I do is I write the sight words on individual index cards or Post-it notes and then spread them out on the floor around our living room. You want to make sure that the cards or Post-it notes are stuck to the floor pretty well, because if they're just loose and they can slide, then that can cause your child to trip and fall. So what you're going to want to do is call out a word, and then your child has to go and jump on top of that word like a frog. My son loves this one because he gets to run around the living room and jump a lot, and it gets a lot of energy out and also gives him a lot of kinesthetic feedback, which is something that's really good for him. So he'll go and jump on the word, and then I'll call out another word and he'll have to go and jump on that one. You can also line up the words in a path and ask your child to go from one word to the next, reading them to you while they jump on the path. So whatever word they land on, they have to read out loud, or whatever word they're going to, they have to read out loud. You can do it that way as well. So this one's a lot of fun with keeping kids moving. It's also a really great one for in the winter or whenever it's rainy and your kid is stuck inside. And then the final game that I wanted to share is another one that's great for active kids, and this is called the Sight Word Race. And so what I do for this one is get a big stack of sight word flashcards or index cards with sight words on them and put them at one end of a long hallway. And then at the other end of the hallway, I sit there like either on a chair or just on the floor. And so my child has to run from me down to the end of the hallway, grab one sight word card, and then run back to me and read the card. And then they hand me the card and they run back down the hallway and grab a second card, run back and read the card. So it's a really great way, again, to get out a lot of excess energy and to just keep kids moving and active while they're practicing their sight words. This one also works really well for practicing math facts if you have an active child who's trying to learn those. So those are just 5 of the ways that we really like to practice sight words in our house. I have an entire post on my blog with 60 different ways that we practice sight words. So there are a lot more ideas than these. And I'll put a link to the blog post in the description of this video. Please feel free to share your favorite way to practice sight words in the comments, and make sure that you check out that blog post for lots of other ideas as well.